Want to know how to set yourself up for financial success and become wealthy? You are not going to want to miss this. In this video, we're going to focus on examples of what compound interest can do for you if you start saving early. Now, if you haven't already watched the video about the magic of compound interest and how it works, it's important to see that one first so you understand what is going on with compound interest and how it is going to make you wealthy. So let's dive in to some real-world examples to help you become wealthy with compound interest. So remember, compound interest is where your interest is earning its own interest. So if you earn interest on a balance that you deposited in an account, then that balance grows when it earns interest. And then the next time you earn interest, the balance grows even more. And every time you earn interest, you're earning it on a bigger and bigger balance. Now, that can take a long time to calculate if you just do it 1 year at a time. But there are a lot of different ways to do it faster, and you can choose which one you'd like to use. So there are formulas for it. There are Excel formulas that you can use. You can also use time value tables in order to calculate compound interest. But the way that I'm going to show you today is, in my opinion, the easiest way by far, and that is using a compound interest calculator online. Okay, so the calculator that I like to use the best is the one on bankrate.com, but there are loads of calculators out there to choose from. But we're going to start out by using this one, and it just comes up so simply. And all you have to do is put in how much money you already have saved. So here it automatically puts in $1,000. And then how many years do you want to save it for? So this is a one-time deposit of $1,000. You save it for 10 years and you're making 0.25% interest. So that's less than a percentage, a quarter of a percentage of interest. And in the example they already have in there, you are also contributing $50 every month on top of the $1,000 you already have. So whenever you calculate that, it says that total you had put in $7,000, but your interest is $93. Well, that's not unbelievably impressive. And why is that? Why did this compound interest not do more for us? Well, it's primarily because of this interest rate. It didn't really earn much of any interest. And if you just have a typical checking account, you're probably not even getting this much interest. So we definitely want to change that. Let's say that we just bumped it up to 3% interest and calculated that. Just from getting a 3% interest rate, our interest went from $93 to $1,222. That is a huge difference. But we can play around with all of the different factors of this. So let's say that you're starting out with absolutely nothing. But for the next 10 years, you are going to save, let's say, $100 a month, and you are going to earn, let's say, 5% interest, because believe it or not, it's not that hard to get 5% interest. So that means that we contributed $12,000 because we've done this 12 months a year for 10 years. And our interest is $3,093, which means our total savings, so the amount that is now in the account, is $15,000. So we earned an extra $3,093 just for being smart enough to put it in an interest earning account of 5%. Okay, so let's say that you actually did, let's say $2,500 a year. Okay, so this time it's going to be yearly. So that would be you depositing $25,000 and earning $6,444, which means that you now have $31,444. How much would this change if we could get 8% interest? Well, now it bumped up to $11,000 in interest. So now you have $36,000. While $36,000 is a great amount of money, that doesn't necessarily make you set for life and wealthy. So what could we do different? How about we start saving $5,000 a year and we're earning our 8% interest. Look, this has already hopped up to $72,000. But let's say that you started doing this when you were 30 and you were going to do this until you're 60. So you're going to do this for 30 years. Okay, you save $5,000 a year for 30 years. This is a significant number, $566,000. Yes, that is over $500,000. Maybe you're 20 years old and you're watching this and you could do that for 40 years. You would have $1.3 million. And guess what? $5,000 a year does not accidentally happen, but it's not that hard to do. You just have to be intentional about it. And 8% interest is good, but it's not unrealistic to be able to get 10% interest. Did you see what just happened there? We went from 8% with 1.3 million. If you were able to get 10%, it jumps up almost $1 million more. And again, that's because every time that we deposit $5,000, every year we get 10% interest on that, and the balance keeps growing and growing because of the interest we're earning. So the longer we can leave it in an account like this, the more and more it's going to grow. Okay, so maybe you don't have 40 years to save. Maybe you have 20 years. You can put it in something that's earning 10% interest, which if you focus on the video that we'll be talking about index funds, you can see that it's not unrealistic to get a 10% return. So you save $5,000 a year. You get this 10% return by using a mutual fund or an index fund, and you do that for 20 years. Maybe you're 40 and you're trying to set yourself up for retirement when you're 60. You saved $100,000 of your own money, but you earned interest of almost double that. So now your account balance is $286,000. Do you see how incredible compound interest really is? And you see the effects that if you start saving when you're young, it can really, really add up. Okay, so what if these numbers are super overwhelming to you and you're like, I'm never going to be able to save $5,000 a year at age 20. Are you kidding me? Well, don't worry. I'm going to do this with some smaller numbers to help you understand the small impacts you could make and how big of a difference it could be. So let's say that you only saved, let's say $25 every month, and you put it into a mutual fund or index fund that typically earns around 10% interest. And again, I'll talk about that in a different video, but over 20 years, you would still be saving $6,000. And because of that investment, it would turn into $17,000. So maybe you start doing that at age 15 or 20 or 30 or wherever you're at in life, and then you just challenge yourself to increase that number throughout the years. Now, this $25 a month, I mean, in reality, almost all of us could find $25 to cut back on, whether that's coffee or eating out, or maybe it's online shopping, or maybe it's different subscriptions that we have. A lot of us have more subscriptions to different TV channels and different music apps than we really need. So look at ways that you can cut back on that, because that $25 a month could more than double if you were to start saving it and investing it instead of just spending it. So that jumps back to the opportunity cost, which I also have a video all about. So we can focus on that and see how much money this could turn into if instead of senselessly spending our money, instead we invest it. So now I challenge you to hop online and use a compound interest calculator to see how much you could be saving and what it could turn into. Only you know exactly how old you are and what your financial situation is. But I want you to intentionally start saving so that you can take advantage of the magic of compound interest.